start the recording. It's now on.
Okay. Good.
Well,
Good afternoon.
yeah. So welcome everybody. I have not heard in my ear that the recording has started, but I assume
It has started.
it
Yes,
has
yes.
started.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, Leo, for starting the recording of this webinar in our Transformation Pathways Planning webinar series. So welcome everybody. Either good evening or good morning. I see participants from the Vietnam node as well as the Mexican node. So for some of you, it's already getting late. And for some of you, it's really early. For us here in the Netherlands, it's 4 p.m. in the afternoon. So still working schedule. 4 weeks ago, no, actually longer, we already had Lok of the Vietnam team who presented his work together with Hoang as well. And today, Hoang is continuing to sharing her knowledge and expertise with us based on the research that she's doing on the transformations from rice to lotus in the Mekong Delta. And she's taking the title already says is a multi-level perspective in her analysis of these translations. I have said enough for now, so Hoang, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Yap and Leon, for introducing my presentation tonight. I mean, okay, good afternoon, evening, or another time, depend on where you are now. So thank you for being here today with me. For someone who doesn't know me yet, so my name is Hoang. I am so delighted to present our work on transformation pathway of agriculture in the Vietnamese Mekong Delta. Looking at the rice lotus as a case from a multi-perspective, multi-level perspective. So this research is a part of the water transformation pathways planning project from Vietnamese node conducted in collaboration, with the ICD, the Vietnam National University Ho Chi Minh City, and the IIT Delft Institute for Water Education. So let's us together now get through our findings and insight, okay? See. I don't know how to move. Okay. Quickly about the outline today, we will cover introduction, the objectives, questions of research, methodology, the historical timeline as, one of the most important key findings, and also the main key findings relating to, the MLP framework. And also later on, I will go with the comparative analysis with other, kind of another agricultural model transitions. Lastly, I will get through the scenarios development. Very quickly, I will recap some key challenges in the Vietnamese Mekong Delta as already we all know. I'm so excited to share our latest publication. You see on the citation over there, the paper about how consistent are adaptation strategies with ongoing climatic and environmental changes in the Vietnamese Mekong Delta from systematic review. So this builds on this kind of information built on our previous discussion, offering fresh insight into Vietnamese, vital rice bowl. Then you see like Vietnamese Mekong Delta face intensifying threats from climate change, sea level rise, salinity, something else. Also environmental degradation from acidic soils, biodiversity loss, economic instability, and youth out migration as well. So our review evaluates how current, adaptation strategies respond to this shift with attention to transitions like, some general transition in agriculture. Also, we look at like groundwater overuse, what it will lead to, like sinking in the delta, accelerating relative sea level rise. Okay, and there's something else. So I will not consume a lot of time for this slide because we already know about them. So our case is about rice to lotus. So then why lotus? First, lotus demonstrates, the remarkable adaptability. It can live like thrivingly in flood-prone and acidic soils where rice struggle to grow. So this resilience makes it a vital option for challenging environments. Economically, it offers high-value products from seeds, flowers, and stems used in food, medicine, cosmetic products, providing farmers with diverse income streams. Environmentally, lotus farming requires lower chemical input, enhance like biodiversity, and support integrated system like lotus fish, lotus tourism, promoting sustainability. Most importantly, regarding the culture, the cultural values is aligned with local traditions and push ecotourism, adding a social dimension to its appeal. So our data shows lotus farming peaked in 2020, but has declined in 2025. So this also highlights both its potential and the challenges we need to address. So let's now move on to the next slide. So the research problem addressed in this study is the lack of comprehensive understanding of how systemic traditions in agriculture can be, effectively managed in the Vietnamese Mekong Delta. More specifically, we need to explore how the niche innovations like lotus farming can be supported and scaled within the existing social technical regime, and how broader landscape level pressures influence these transitions, and how these processes contribute to long-term agricultural sustainability. First of all, our study will examine the rice to lotus transition in the VMD by analyzing like lotus farming emergence, the evolution, the impacts as niche innovation. We will identify the drivers and also barriers. That is the first research questions, and we evaluate the influence of landscape level pressures on its pathway. The second one, we assess its success or failure as a sustainable agriculture model. The third one, and then lastly, we will also propose some future scenarios and policy recommendations for, facilitate the sustainable agriculture transition in the region. We will look at, this one is the research questions that we need to find the answers. So, for the methodology, this is the key. We will use the MLP framework, that is multi-level perspective framework, which we embedded into social technical transition theory to guide our analysis. This framework will captures the dynamic interplay of barriers and enablers that explain agricultural transitions, like the rise to lotus, through interactions across 3 levels. The first one is landscape level. We see the macro level pressures, for example, climate change, that's already mentioned previously, sea level rise, salinity intrusions, blah, 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 alongside the market shift that create external challenges and opportunities. So, in the middle of the chart, you will see the regime levels that represent the dominant systems like rice-centric infrastructure, the entrenched policies, and established farming practices that resist change. And then at the bottom level, we see niche level innovation emerge, like lotus farming techniques and ecotourism ventures, where new ideas and practices are tested and refined. So this framework aligns seamlessly with, the social technical transition theory that focus on the systemic shift towards sustainability. As shown in this diagram, you will see this theory integrates with the human dimensions, like actor intrinsic factors like their needs, their thoughts, their wants, and as well as the external factors influence adoption and implementation of the niche innovation. So we we adapted into the MLP structure. So you see the arrow illustrates how innovations, from the niche level push forward, upward, and then challenging the, the regime and wide landscape pressures create window for change. So the actor dynamics over here, driven by human interactions, further shape these transitions. So linking individual agency to systemic transformation. Then, okay, let's move on to the next session, how we will address the problems that I mentioned earlier. Okay. In order to collect the data and serve to seek answers for the research questions, we adopt a qualitative case study approach with historical analysis in integrating oral history, policy reviews and archival data and the collected data in two phases. Actually, I take advantage of my previous work that's published in 2021 for the phase one. The data then collected from mid-2016 to the early of 2017 with 12 interviews, in-depth interviews, and phase two, we have just done it recently. That's from March 2025. Okay, with 19 new interviews that review already the decline of, lotus areas into like only 45 hectares compared to the peak in 2020, that is 700 hectares. Okay. For the data analysis process, in order to make our findings more, not objective from only one researcher perspective, we integrate it into this step-by-step procedure, followed by analyzing and validating the data. So I was the first researcher who did the, extracting data from interview transcript. Then we will follow these 10 steps. The first one is mine, and then the next one is from the researcher too. He's not here, I think, I don't know. He's not here, but his contribution is also valuable in making the findings very, enriched. I mean, it's enriched, and he finds some new insight that I did not, I could not. So, okay, these are the procedures. Then this one is from my extraction. So this one is, you can see from step by step. The first level, we take some empirical concepts from, directly from the data set. Then we will see, for example, for a disease that we call rhizome rot, but Vietnamese we call it chạy dây, for example. Then I took out 12 mentions, for example, for initiative from OCOP. Everyone know OCOP, right? That is like one product. This idea is inspired from one village, one product from Japan. So we took to Vietnam. Then it's now really work, for us to verify our products as organic, for example, or something like this. Okay, this is just a sample from the first step of extracting data from the interview data set. So it's not that verified or triangulated yet. So I move on to expanding the analytical framework by taking into account the new insight from the researcher too. So then this guy, he did a very nice job in adding to the original conceptual framework by bringing forward several critical insights that help deepen our understanding on transformation dynamics in the Vietnamese Mekong Delta. For example, the first one, he uncovered power asymmetries between farmers and external actors like traders and input suppliers with constrained farmer agency that I did not even see, that's nice. So he also highlighted gender labor roles, especially the under-recognized contributions of women in lotus-related tourism and OCOP, production chains. Okay, the thematic structure was refined then by introducing some new dimensions, including social-cultural dynamics that can be used to capture, like, embedded traditions, festival, or local identities around lotus, for example. Knowledge systems and learning to reflect, endogenous and innovation training and experimental learning. The last one, but I like it, like power and governance structures. This researcher proposed some like temporal layering to distinguish between emergent and entrenched elements in the system. These two works are, really visualize how the elements in the system can be separated by, okay, one existing for the long time, but someone coming as a new artifacts, or the new actors. So for example, OCOP products and ecotourism models are emergent, whereas the two crop rice system and water infrastructure remain entrenched regimes, regime features. So finally, the new concepts like transitional spaces and feedback loops were added to show how hybrid zones like cooperatives can act as bridges between innovation and mainstream adoption, and how policies can evolve through bottom-up feedback. This is a nice perspective, because normally we look at the political culture of Vietnamese, like mainly top-down, but okay, this one is working bottom-up. Okay, so these enhancements help us move from a static structural analysis to a more process-oriented and politically informed understanding of agricultural transitions in the Delta. This in turn, improves our ability to design time-sensitive and context-aware policy interventions. Then let's move quickly to the next one. Let's see. Okay. Where I am. Okay, this one is the new, the new insight brought by diagram, making by the researcher too. So he add some new concept into this. Actually, this is not finalized yet because the manuscript is still ongoing. We are still revising it, and we still, come up with combining these two insights from the researcher one and the researcher two. So it is still like this separate two diagrams, but then I will integrate them later. Not, I don't have enough time for that. I have a lot on my plate. So, okay. Just a quick recap. Here we will add the new insight that valuable from this guy is like the power dynamic matter, the gender problem, the learning is the process and dynamic transitions, and also the feedback loop. So I will take all of them into my, actually, to be honest, I will exclude the gender problems because that is not so important in our MLP framework. It's not that visualize how the regime and the landscape influence onto the needs evolution. So I will not include the gender problem. Okay, to be honest. Okay, this one, I think I should be quick because it take time and I still have a lot to talk. Sorry. So then just make a note here that we have after 2018 we have the outbreak from the disease. So it's make the areas of lotus farming is declined significantly. So that's it. Then for this historical timeline, this made from another from Lộc, actually he's here. So this one good. In the sense that we outline the historical timeline that can illustrate the evolution, and then he categorized those transitions into three main transitions. So the transition one, market as green color. The two is yellow, and then the last one is in red color. So I mean, I think he has some purposes for doing that. For example, for the level 1 in green, we can see that acidic soils and floodplains in the 1990s supported our lotus habitat and rice subsistence, and DICE was built then for flood control, and also OCOP already emerged then to promote lotus cultivation. So by 2025, land use reverted to rice and back to fruit due to pollution from rice runoff. So I mean, like, this is the first one. For the farmer perception in gray, I think like want to mention about the disease as a really serious problem. People call it like cancer that lead to a shift in shifting into alternative crops, where we can see in yellow the socio-economic dynamics in level 3 that reflect lotus non-economic role in 2090s, but followed by Taiwanese export attempts and local market growth in 2000s. So then the lotus tourism boom in the 2010s brought the high profit, and then after that is supported by OCOP products, and then the new market open like Singapore, Korea, so make the rice rising. But the level 4 in purple show early land reclamation policies followed by DICE investment. The financial aid from CTU, IUCN and CTU supported for researching. This can continue with a focus on rice-centric infrastructure, and it's also kind of barriers in regime system. The key challenges highlight in red is showing poor rice viability in 1990s, but an early disease concern in 2010. But from the period from 2018 to 2025, the disease is becoming so serious that people cannot find any solutions for that. In addition to climate extremes and market collapse and labor crisis, that's super significant, I mean, problem that overwhelmed the lotus sector. So finally, level 6 is began with wild harvesting for household use in 1990s, but at the end, by 2025, due to the disease, the tourism and fish models persist. The decline in areas of lotus, but some tourism and fish models still remain. So we focus here 3 transitions. The first one is from 1990 to 2000. The second one in 2010s, and the third one is the last period from 2018 to 2025. But to be honest, I think this timeline should be improved by marking the period of time is more specific. This one is with even period that's not reflecting in detail, like exactly what I want to show with like what year is it reflecting in what event. So it should be improved later. So we talk about that already. So let's mark the new timeline should be followed by this work from Mr. Ben from our team as well. He's showing this to us, and then I was inspired. So I think we should work on this to improve the timeline. Okay. Key findings, I will get through it very quickly because I think I already was too long. This is the, this framework, this not framework, this diagram is chart, these figures, okay, is taking only from the researcher 1, is not included with the new insight from the researcher 2 yet, but let me just go summarizing these very quickly. Going from the top level, that is landscape, we see that the macro pressures, for example, climate change, upstream sediment loss, and economic shocks that were precious, but on the other hand, is also create a window for change. So, okay, these on one side, destabilize lotus niches, but making it the price fell, reversing incentives, environmental degradation, and raising labor costs add further stress. But on the other side, it's also making people think about shifting. So, you know, like changing the models in agriculture. So at the regime level, we see like rice remain there, dominant with entrenched, you know, infrastructure, mechanized production and cultural norms. So policy mandate to rice crop per year, so wide supply chain subsidies and consumer habits reinforce rice centrality. Then weak lotus markets coming. Okay, at the niche level, we see here a lot of innovation, seed of innovations, for example, lotus rice, lotus fish, lotus tourism. Those we call it at the seed of innovation because it can solve to, you know, build up the transitions nicely by shifting from rice to lotus. But you see that in order to make it from experimental to stabilization, we have the big question. What is the locked-in and what is the drivers to make the transformation pathway possible? We see there is a lot of locked-in here. Like the infrastructure, you can see that. Also the culture, the regime is related to the regime level. It's locked the path of transforming. So the path dependency here, market as economic weaknesses, environmental vulnerabilities, for example, governance challenges. But this one is not yet included with, you know, the new insights. So I mean, this one will be improved. So then I will not talk a lot about this anymore. I would stop here with these recaps. From this level. We see that the challenges, the emergence, also the resilience, the regime level. We see the rice-centric infrastructure as a recap for, you know, barriers, also policy biases, the market volatility, and weak value chains. But we also have enablers, for example, the OCOP program, the support for research from Control University, and something else. This is for the landscape level. We see the opportunities I mentioned already. Climate pressures create space for lotus in flood-prone areas, is like create the window of opportunity. So globalization open niche markets. Also, we have a quote here from the interviewee number 1 that climate change is very erratic now. We move on to this very quickly, comparative analysis. In order to make the picture more diverse and make it more, you know, valuable in the sense that it can contribute to the practical value, so then we can make the policy more practical. I mean, I don't know how to say, but we should already bring up a broader scale for this kind of study. We haven't finished yet this comparative analysis. This is just a draft, and at the first very quick glance, you can see that we pick up 3 kind of models: the rice lotus, the rice shrimp, and the rice fish. We see different. Those are difference in actually there was 3 prominent shifts. Rice to lotus or rice to shrimp, but each of the models show a unique interaction between these levels in the MLP framework. For example, okay, I want to say about the rice lotus first. It's primarily driven by flood and ecotourism potential, but it's get regime. The regime support still through many provincial policies that's supporting rice intensification. Like, for example, we have the project of 1 million hectares for rice, for example, that. And also But in here, we see the bottom-up, socially embedded transformation pathway. That can be called bottom-up devolution on the central level delusion. So in contrast, the rice rim is shaped by salinity intrusion and market opportunities. However, it's marked by water conflict and top-down diffusion. So with more centralized policy pushes and less grassroots engagement. So this creates tension and uneven adaptation outcome. And lastly, the rice fish, this addresses flooding and food security, but still remains marginal in terms of regime support and mostly relies on informal and small-scale experimentation. Okay, my message here is the varied trajectories reveal that sustainable transformation in the Vietnamese Mekong Delta depends not only on environmental pressures, but also on the alignment between local innovation regimes, responsiveness, and landscape dynamics. Okay. Okay, almost there. We have mapping the transformation pathway. This is just summarize what we have already talked. Then we propose 3 scenarios. This is the last slide. Okay. We developing scenarios based on the 4 P's framework that's suggested by Mr. Ben. Actually, it's haven't revised yet regarding the name of the P. We have place, price, products, the promotion. Instead of promotion, we should use policy. And instead of product, we use producer. So, or according to Mr. Ben. So then I think it's not so much different. But we can also see we have 3 kind of scenarios. The highest one, the most optimistic is needs revival through innovation and support, where regime pressures are low, and this can enable conditions allow the needs to thrive. Okay. And for scenario 2, contrast is more pessimistic, like regime dominance and needs marginalization. The last one outline the middle path, the hybrid transformation with gradual integration. This is the most likely to happen. Okay, we will talk about this later. When I send out my draft to Wim and to the team from the Netherlands to put on, you know, your intervention and your comments and review and also contribution, if you are interested in it. So thank you so much for, you know, listening. It's quite long, so I'm sorry for taking a lot of time for that. Then I listen to your comments, you know, questions and anything you can raise. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Hoang, to your interesting story. So, yes, that leaves then also the possibility for people to ask questions or either comments or clarification. And as I only see a few people on my screen, you might be able to. I see now a hand raised by Marissa. So Marissa, please.
Yes, thank you very much for your presentation. Very, very interesting. I have a question regarding the water body, where you have either the rice or the lotus and the fish. Is there, have you monitored the water quality? Is there a change in the water quality?
You finish your questions? You want to ask something else? Okay.
When there's a transformation from the rice, and then you have lotus, and then you can have fish, have you monitored the evolution of the water quality in the water body?
Yes, thank you so much for this, you know, very, very nice questions. I didn't mention it, but to be honest, since the disease come out, people look, you know, people did a lot of research on looking for the root of the disease, including, you know, taking samples from water, you know, and then, yes, the fact is water was polluted. And then people came up with a conclusion that there might be a contaminating or some kind of like, I don't know how to say, the transition substance or something like this, you know, to transfer the disease from this place to another place. And when the pollutant is in the water flow, we cannot identify it clearly where it's come from or what exactly that is. But there is the big question in the researcher. They have in mind, they're skeptic that, okay, there must be something in the water flow to make to cause the disease. So okay, this is the problem as well. Thank you.
Do you have identified if it's a chemical or it's a microorganism or it's a mixture of factors?
As far as I understand, I think that can be called chronic right now because it's lasting long in a long time and it's non-stop. And if we kind of like we change the water, we have the pump system around the lotus areas, but then pumping water doesn't solve, you know, they cannot solve the diseases still come up again. Okay, after they pump out all of the water, they change a new water in, and then okay, they can grow lotus for the first season, but for the second season, the disease come up again. So maybe it's from soil, not only from water, but I don't know. We don't know. But there is this recent research from CTU, the Country University. They will do the in-depth monitoring process and also install some kind of like state-of-the-art, I mean, devices or equipment or, you know, appliances to do the monitoring and to test the quality of water.
You should look at the sediment, not just the water. A lot
Right.
might be concentrated in the sediment.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much. Any other questions?
Yeah, so I can ask another question, and I see Leon has raised that. So thank you very much, Hoang, for your interesting presentation and your thorough analysis. And I think it is indeed relevant, indeed, also to further see how that this disease in the lotus farming system is well, what is the cause actually of that, or what does it mean actually that the cause might be actually unknown, and what does that mean for potential lotus farmers in order to see it as too high of a risk for lotus farm. I was wondering in that sense a bit, because the production of lotus collapsed from, I think you mentioned, from 700 hectares to less than 50 hectares.
45, yeah.
What has it actually done to the price of lotus on the local market? So has it become from a very, let's say, cheap, widely available product to a very expensive, not so available product? So what has it actually done to the people who are farming? And next to that, because you present certain lotus combination options, lotus and rice, lotus and fish, do you see that people are making additional benefits to that, in particular in comparison to rice farming?
Okay, actually in 2018, I did a cost-benefit analysis comparing, you know, prices of lotus and rice. And then the fact is, that's the researcher to call it like the asymmetries in power between traders and farmers, you know, because traders in the market, like they manipulate the prices, and then the farmers have no idea on how to, you know, raise the price. Actually, before there's some years that the price of lotus is coming too high, 10 times compared to rice, and they attracted a lot of farmers to go to change to shift from rice to lotus. But after that, is just dramatically drop, and even right now is so low compared to rice. Is very low, the lowest one compared to the whole period of lotus farming this year, marking the lowest price in market. So the fluctuation of market is high, and farmers cannot deal with that. So now when we interview them in March 2025, most of the farmers already have idea to change, not only to rice but to another kind of agricultural modules like fruit, durian, jackfruit, something like this, because this is give them higher income. But when we ask, would you like to come back to lotus? They say, of course, if the price is getting high, but like before, like in a few years back, we will come back to lotus. Why not? Because it's brought us beauty, and also we can enjoy, cultural values as well. Many things. Lotus has a lot of benefit, as we all know. So yeah, that is the problem for price. We cannot control it. Farmers cannot control it. So, and Leon, I see you raise your hand.
Yeah, I actually also was wondering about the market collapse that Jaap asked about, but based on the answer, I understand it's the traders who control the price, but it's still not clear to me what freedom they have and how they would strategize to manipulate the prices. But maybe it's also not yeah, if you have some insights on that would be very interesting, because I do think in a lot of rural economies there is this role of traders or middlemen. So if we can understand it a bit better, that would be great. The other question though that I had was about the point of the gender, that you remarked that it seemed it came up in the research as but you would still not include it. I would want to hear a bit more about it. What was the rule and why do you not include it? It could be something that is maybe
It's
missing
listed-
from the MLP framework, but it could also simply be it plays no role in
Okay.
the case. That was
Thank
not
you.
clear to me. Yeah.
Thanks, Leon. For the first question, you asked about the what is the freedom for trader to manipulate the prices of lotus. I don't think they can do it alone. They also rely on the general markets, for example, global markets, or where the products can go to. So it's also depend on the end users. Where it end up? What company can be, can take on the products? It's one of the recommendations from farmers is we need the value chain within the region where they can have the guarantee for their output. They want to be invested for the beginning, for seed, for fertilizers, something else, for labor, and the end, they want them to guarantee the I don't know, the floor or the ceiling price. I cannot remember one of them. So then for them to have the safety in cultivating lotus. So okay, that's it for the first question. For the second one, about gender. Okay. So that is the one of the reason why I took out from my analysis, because I don't have enough evidences for that. I don't have particularly in lotus farming, I don't, from myself perspective, I don't see that gender problem too strong like another cases within the team. We conducted another, like Lộc already presented last time, the role of women in another kind of models, like organic products production is stronger. But in here for lotus farming, we interview only one woman. Among all of the interviewees, only one woman. So I don't know how to generalize the finding. actually, I want to see more the role of women in this kind of transition process. But myself, I cannot. So that's why I excluded, because I don't have enough evidences.
Yes, just for your information, Leon and Mas and the DUC team, it's very interesting the rotation like that. 1 week walking in the lotus pond, one lows, one gene slow. It means lotus farming model is the very, very, very heavy job. It requires lots of hard work. It means it's extremely suitable for the man. And you see the lotus, there are many things. It's the reason why it's the rotation 1 week, one loads, 1 week, one pen, 1 week, one levisine, something like that. It's the reason why we cannot see the role of the woman in the lotus farming. However, in the boss, the boss, let me think, boss habit, like something like the lotus, rice wine, the lotus, cuisine. Yes, the role of the role of the female is very clear. But now in this, the fewer we did not have the time to interview and to figure out the original insight. But sure, it depends on the job. In the pond, under the water, or in the kitchen, something like that. Thank you.
Yeah, it would give an explanation or an expression that roles, tasks, responsibilities in lotus farming in the Mekong Delta are actually strongly gendered. So if you see a vast majority of men working in the ponds doing certain activities, and that women of those same farming households have other activities, then it is strongly gendered. In particularly if it is combined with narratives, this is a man's job because it is very heavy. Well, you need to stand the whole day in the water and it requires force. I don't know what kind of narrative is used, but then the narrative is in that sense already gendered.
And I would like to say another insight that compared to the rice party, yeah, rice party now totally depend on the machine, a lot of machine, a lot of tool to help the farmer. Now the rice farmer is like the rice manager. They sign a lot of subcontract, the lump sum contract with the machine A, machine B, machine C, and they free from the heavy job. They focus on the right matter, the mindset, the strategy. However, in the lotus farming now, it nearly totally on the manual labor. There are just few machines from the rice paddy farming adapted into the lotus. I guess 1 or 2 machines, something like that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So which is interesting, in a sense, also when Hoang also mentioned that there is a lot of the farmers stopping with lotus farming might be triggered by this illness that was for this that has spread among lotus cultivations, but other forms of agricultural production might be much less labor intensive. And you might say that's due to the mechanization of rice cultivation, or maybe the fruit orchards that Hoang also mentioned, might also be less labor intensive. Making the argument that lotus farming is a man's job because it's heavy duty manual labor, also showing that might be really more of a narrative because these strong male farmers apparently prefer to do less manual work. But yeah, so but it is, I think, interesting to also rethink, because you talk about these transformations on and it relates, I think, to multiple elements. So there might be this trigger of the disease. There is maybe issues of water distributions, issues of that has changed and influenced these this production systems of lotus, and why it is apparently becoming less attractive for these farmers. And it might be a complex of these different things. And therefore, I think it would be also interesting to then be, and so there are these issues or these activities on a niche level. Who are the currently the successful lotus farmers?
Then the ecotourism one.
Okay.
They are, yes, they are still happy with their, you know, income and that. The field you see on the screen.
Yeah,
I visited in 2018, and now we come back and they're still, you know, but there's the new dye coming, but they don't feel bothered with that. They will happy. They will feel they are happy with that, because this will help them to carry more more tourists. They don't need to use, you know, the ferry to pass the river into their venue or the destination to visit this lotus farm, but the dye can help. That's why I think they are the most successful one in the model. So should I dive in it a little bit more detail to see is as a seed for innovation for the niche? Maybe.
Maybe for further discussion and thought, I would say. We are also reaching the end of this webinar. So is there a final question from somebody else maybe in the audience? And if so, you can turn on your microphone and ask your question. I think that leads us to then close this webinar for now. So thank you very much, Hoang.
Thank you.
And team, it's a very elaborate research project that you have established, from which I think already gives some interesting ideas also in studying the transformation, also relating it back, I think, to some older models of the niches, regimes, and landscapes. So it's interesting to take that back on board. With that, again, thank you very much. And I am going to say thank you to all the participants here online for your questions. And I'm looking forward to the next webinar that we organize in a month from now, in which the Mexican node is going to present some of their findings. Thank you very much and have a good day.
Thank you. Thank Marisa for your questions and interacting. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much. Very interesting. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye, thank you.